Hi, welcome back to the channel. This is part 4 and the final episode of my Sydney series, where I show you everything that you should do while visiting this city. We've covered the inner west, the Blue Mountains and the coast, and now for the grand finale, the iconic city day. If you're new here, welcome. I'll leave the links for the other videos down in the description, but for now, let's do the iconic city day. A good trip needs a grand finale, and when you're visiting Sydney, the iconic city day is a must. The Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, and exploring the city, everything that you've seen online in front of your eyes. I deliberately left this to the last just because I wanted my friend to experience the real Sydney, and then on her last day do all the touristy things around the city. We started off very early in the morning where we headed to Wentworth Point to catch the ferry to Quay. The ferry point we started off at was Sydney Olympic Park. I found that this was a really good starting point just because you'll have 45 minutes on the waters. We were able to watch the sunrise, which was really beautiful as it hits the water. If you're not able to do the 45-minute ferry ride, I do recommend doing a small one around Quay just so you can take some really nice photos of the bridge and also the Opera House. After docking at Quay, we headed to Dutch Smuggler, which a friend has highly recommended coffee. This was the perfect place for some breakfast because they had some very delicious toasty. This is our breakfast today. Beef rendang and then the mee goreng. And we also got coffees and hot chocolates. Yum. We fueled up for our big day of walking. Firstly, we headed to the Sydney Harbour Bridge where we walked around past Quay's landing. We were able to take some nice photos with the Opera House and then walk closer to the Harbour Bridge for some photos. We're here. Opera House and everything. Then the city on this side. Very bright. Sunny. Since the rocks was nearby, we decided to explore it and also look for some souvenirs. My friend was finally able to find some artistic postcards, so that was a big win on our part. And then we headed to the Opera House. Actually, firstly we ended up inside the Opera House just to see what the architecture was like inside the Opera House. And the gift shop. Here we go. We also looked at their souvenir shop as well. It's quite simple, a lot of Opera House stuff if you were interested in that. and then we headed out outside where all the seats near the bar is, so then you can take your iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge photo and also photo with Opera House on the side. Then we headed up the stairs, which is a must, so then you can touch the tiles of the Opera House and say that you've been there. We chilled on the step and we people watched and admire how the seagulls just glide through the air. Our next stop was Darling Harbour and we caught the tram there. This too is a really lovely spot to walk around, really beautiful harbour side, and if you want you can also grab a bite there too. We had a little sit down at Freo, which is a new frozen yogurt place with some really delicious Asian inspired flavours.
Oh, I can use this.
This one's my favourite. It's really refreshing and a good afternoon break. Don't you think I forgot? But with every Sydney experience, you definitely need to head to a pub. And so for our lunch, we headed to Forrester in Surry Hills. It was a really hilly walk up to the pub, but it was all worth it for the wedges. We ordered some lemon limes and bitters, some wedges with sour cream and sweet chilli, and also a giant Yorkie. So we're going to order wedges, pretty Australian, and then we're gonna get the Yorkie because my friend hasn't tried it before. It's very English, and then we're gonna get some lemon limes and bitters on top. We got a Yorkie. Wow, it's so loaded. And we got some wedges. Thank you. Standout dish for us was definitely the wedges. They were incredibly crispy, and surprisingly, even towards the end of our meal, they were still crispy. And they went so well with the sour cream and the sweet chili. After our very filling lunch, we walked to the QVB to admire the architecture there. Yeah, we can. We had a quick browse around Muji and Kinokuniya, which is a really massive bookstore filled with local books but also Asian books as well. Also filled with stationery, which is something my friend really enjoys. Oh, this looks pretty cute. And kittens. Then we headed home for a quiet dinner to wrap up the last night of her trip. And that's a wrap for 4 days in Sydney. We started off with waterfront walks, got lost in the clouds at the Blue Mountain, experienced the Bondi coast, and ended it with the iconic city. If you're planning a trip to Sydney, I hope this video has shown you some realistic things to do in Sydney. a lot of food spots, neighborhoods and local recommendations. And if you've been watching the whole series, thank you so much for watching, and then I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.